All right, joining me now is Representative Jeff Jones, Republican from Brunswick. Hey, Jeff, great to have you with us, sir, my new BFF.
John, good morning. And I meant to say you might want to be just a bit more discerning about people you declare as your BFF until you get to know me a little bit better. Anyway, good morning. Good to be with you this morning.
Jeff, okay, so we got a hearing today at 9 o'clock. It's on Zoom call. It's on my Facebook page. Anybody wants to log in, just go to Facebook, John Fredericks Show. Also follow me there. Jeff, this was hastily called. Like, I was calling people last night that didn't even know anything about it. How did this come to being? You're in the House. How did it come to being so quickly, Jeff?
As I told you, I was caught flat-footed as well and was not aware that it was going on until you brought it to my attention. So I don't have an answer for you. I wish I did. They're being secretive about their next steps, I guess is the best way I can put it.
Define they.
Trying to corral and manage the process. Define
they.
Oh, our state's leadership, our House leadership, our Senate leadership at the state level. Those that are stonewalling our efforts to get to the bottom of the election fraud. Your caller mentioned Senator Ligon's report. It is quite revealing about the depth and breadth of the fraud, the mishandling, and the problems that occurred on the November 3rd election throughout the state of Georgia, at least it's certain in key counties, Board of Elections in our state. Anyone who at this stage in the state of Georgia who denies that we had problems on the November 3rd election is either ignorant or simply refusing to acknowledge the truth. Or they're trying to cover up and they're implicit in the process. And I hate to think that the latter is the case.
Jeff Jones with us, Representative Jeff Jones, Republican from Brunswick, that's South Georgia. Representative, do you believe that this...
You call me Jeff.
Jeff, do you believe this hearing was called hastily because of pressure, because of the written committee report that Senator Ligon disseminated the other day?
Well, yes. Yes, that's certainly it. The public outcry has become so loud and so overwhelming that our leadership at the General Assembly cannot avoid this issue to not doing something, at least the appearance of doing something. I have an idea I want to bounce by you, too, when you get a minute, about how we could do a simple audit of our vote integrity. You want to hear it real quick?
Yes, sir.
Very simple. Raffensperger has resisted doing a signature audit. Well, here's a simple way to check to see if we've had fraudulent ballots introduced into the system. Step one, add up the total of all in-person voting that occurred in the state of Georgia. To that total, add up the total of all absentee mail-in ballot envelopes. That total should give us the total of legal votes cast in the state of Georgia. Compare that total to the highest total of all votes cast in the state. If there's an overage, which you and I believe, and most of Georgians, thinking Georgians, believe there will be an overage, that will be a clear indication that fraudulent ballots were introduced into the vote ballot counting stream. Simple, easy to do.
That sounds really easy. So let me just reiterate what you said so I understand it. Add up the total of all the in-person voting and the early voting, right? In-person game day and early voting.
All of in-person day voting. Of election, right.
Then add up, what are you saying, all the absentee ballots that
Envelopes.
Envelopes.
Every mail-in absentee ballot that's legal was supposed to come in an envelope, actually a pair of envelopes with signatures and such. That outer envelope with the signature by law, I believe, is supposed to be kept for 2 years. So they are available and on hand.
So you've got the envelope. So even if they came in one of these infamous drop boxes, it's still got to be in an envelope.
In a double envelope. And it's supposed to have been folded. And we've all heard stories about ballots that were being counted that were pristine and had never been folded. Just by nature of what those ballots are, they should have been folded and in an envelope.
That is so simple. So, that would solve the problem with the machines and everything else. It wouldn't solve the problems of the machines if they're calculating votes for Biden that Trump had. So that's a separate issue. But just with the pure and simple vote fraud
Gross
allegations.
totals.
Yeah, the total.
Yes, sir.
You add those up.
I just posted.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I just posted that suggestion to my Facebook page and shared it to a number of other groups that I'm a member of this morning. And in fact, yesterday afternoon, which is discussing this idea with another active person who believes we've had fraud, and they're going to bring it to the Georgia GOP leadership. Simple idea. Let's get it done. We can do it today. We can do it in the next 2 days. And it would tell us if indeed fraudulent ballots were introduced into the the ballot counting screen.
So, Jeff, the hearing today, is this going to be brought up by anybody?
Again, I just came up with this idea yesterday, and I have just started floating it now to your audience and to
I love the idea. If there's a big discrepancy there, you can't get simpler than that, right? Add the votes up, and they don't add up. That ends it. So, okay, second thing.
Yes.
What is the objective today of this hearing? We understand that they've called Raffensperger. They've called, who else? Chris Harvey, their elections director, Gabriel the Weasel Sterling, Ryan Germany, their general counsel. What is the purpose today? Why are they doing it?
Here again, John, Raffensperger has continued to say publicly, I'm not sure when he said it most recently, but he has continued to say publicly that this was the most secure election in Georgia's history under his leadership. He has refused, Secretary of State Raffensperger has refused to admit that there are any problems in the election process. So my guess is that they're going to continue to attempt to prove by their statements that this election was secure, that there are no problems. I have seen no indication, John, that our leadership in the state of Georgia is willing to admit that we had serious problems with our election. So I expect they're going to continue to explain to the voters that all these allegations of fraud are easily explained away and that we've had no problems. That's what I expect. I hope I'm wrong.
Are they under oath when they testify to the this is the Government Oversight Committee in the House? I went through the names, kind of looked some of their past statements up. They don't have really a Senator Ligon type on that committee that is going to be doggedly going after the truth. But when you go to a committee hearing like this by Zoom, are they under oath?
No, they're not. We don't do that. We just don't put people under oath. They're expected to tell the truth, but there's no oath taken that they're to do so.
The House committees, you have no subpoena power, right?
That is correct.
They're not under oath.
No.
Go ahead.
Now, I was just going to say, I interrupted you, and I apologize. You were summarizing nicely. We have no subpoena power, and people who testify are not under oath. I could give you an example of a situation that occurred during the session in 2020 where a couple of bill sponsors flat out lied about the facts that they were presenting in order to convince a couple of committees to pass some bills onto the full Senate and full House. But no, there's no requirement that people tell the truth, and no swearing in of witnesses.
Hearing was called hastily. We've all put it out now on Facebook. It's going to have a huge audience. I don't see these Republicans on this committee, and we're with Representative Jeff Jones, House member of the Georgia legislature from Brunswick, Georgia. That's South Georgia, if you don't know the area. So, Jeff, they hastily call this hearing. They say Raffensperger and his henchmen are going to testify on Zoom. It's open to the public. Do the Republicans on this committee realize that if they softball and mealy-mouth this, that there's going to be hell to pay, that people are expecting to get some answers here?
A common thinking person, voter, citizen of the state of Georgia would think exactly that, John. But as we talk about, we talked about the fact that we only got 30 House members and about a dozen senators to sign on to our attempt several weeks ago to hold a special session. they don't seem to care. They are more concerned, as I've said before on your show. We have elected representatives in the state of Georgia who are more concerned about being in good favor with leadership, about their chairmanships and other perks, and having their bills be allowed to pass through the process. They're more concerned about those issues than they are doing the right thing for the state of Georgia. Why didn't these folks sign on to a special session several weeks ago and begin the attempt to try to straighten things out? It's illogical. I think what's going to happen, and I'm not calling for it, but I know many have, these folks who do not stand up and do the right thing for the state of Georgia are going to be primaried. Republicans are going to be primaried. They need to be prepared to do the right thing today. I can't speculate. The whole thing blows my mind, John.
Well, I have the names of the 30 representatives, you one of them, that wanted to sign on to the petition. I have the names of the 12. It's actually like 13 senators. One was saying that if he got it, they would do it, so I'll count him. So it's like 13 or 14 senators. Should I make those public or not?
Well, I posted them on my Facebook page, and I have a pretty far reach in Georgia. I've had calls from North Georgia for people who have seen that. I would, John. You know, what I have learned in the General Assembly is talk is cheap. Until elected officials affix their signature to bills or petitions calling for special sessions, talk is cheap and it means nothing. If they were not willing to put their signature on that document, you know, they need to be called out for it. And I want to point out as well, Speaker Ralton did not sign that resolution. Yet Speaker Ralton promised President Trump that Speaker Ralton, would do everything in his power to call a special session. Well, the phrase lead by example comes to mind. Why didn't Speaker Ralston sign on to that resolution? I could guarantee you, John, had the Speaker done that, we would have gotten, I believe we would have gotten our 91 House of members to sign on. But he didn't. It's very telling.
Actually, Jeff Jones, he did the opposite. He told people not to sign it. Who did the exact opposite. You know, it's one thing to say, just lead by example, put your name out there. He did the exact opposite of what he told the leader of the free world on the phone. I mean, think about that.
And I called him on that, John.
I'll do this. I'll do this for you. Hangs up the phone, laughs at him, and I am speculating, because if you don't take somebody seriously, what do you do? Hangs up the phone and does the exact opposite of what he just told the leader of the free world. And this guy's your Speaker of the House. And then when we did the story...
That's the way he operates.
When we did the story in the Georgia Star News, they didn't have the kahunas to make a statement. They wouldn't call us back, either with a spokesperson, but they had let all his minions contact us, all his little henchmen that are all getting the little committee posts. They all reached out and said, you know, the story was wrong, don't publish it. Right? But he never reached out.
Right.
We gave him 2 days, even his spokesman. We gave him 2 days. That's what your spokesman does. They call the press back. We gave him 2 days, they never responded. Unbelievable. You know, I've been in this business a long time. When people don't respond, it's because what they say they don't want on the record. That's why they don't respond. Otherwise, they respond to you. Like I had a hit piece on me. I had a hit piece by the New York Times yesterday in Georgia Star News. We responded today with a big piece right on the front page, and I've got a quotation in there. We respond. If you have something to say, respond. If you don't want to go on the record, that's when you don't return the call. Jeff Jones, I'm telling you, man, you're my BFF in Brunswick, dude.
You may call me anytime, John. I'm happy to talk and talk about the real truth about what's going on.
You're the man. You're a fighter. Hey, for all my listeners out there, this guy, and David Clark and others. I mean, these guys are fighters, man. They're fighting and they're putting themselves on the line. Go ahead. My Facebook page is Jeff Jones Page at Jeff Jones GA. Look at my Facebook page. I'm consistent in my positions on all these issues. Jeff Jones Page at Jeff Jones GA? Correct.
Sure.
Thanks for